Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome everyone this morning. My name is Michelle Sakurka. I'm the President and CEO at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Today we've assembled quite a varied and impressive list of speakers to discuss the current state of our unprecedented hiring crisis here in the state of New Jersey and its impacts and effects on New Jersey businesses, its workforce, and our economy. In addition to those present, we would have had many others, but they advised 201 that if they came to speak, there would be no one to run the shop, clean the dishes, make the beds, run the cash register, etc. But they implored us, please, to tell their story in their absence, and so we promised that we would. Allow me just to set the stage. As COVID began to wane, the executive orders on business closures being lifted, vaccinations on the rise, and confidence to return to a new normal presenting itself, our New Jersey businesses readied and, in fact, opened. However, being open 100% means absolutely nothing without a workforce of 100%. And this is where the rubber hit the road. Immediately upon calling the workforce back, many New Jersey employers realized that the workforce was not answering the call. And for many reasons, but I want to address three that stand out the most. Childcare limitations. Continuing childcare license restrictions limit the amount of children that at any point in time can be accommodated in our childcare facilities, and we'll hear more about that today. We all know if children aren't in a safe place, our workers can't get back to work. The other is the harsh reality that the federal UI unemployment insurance supplement of $300 makes staying home with your family more attractive than returning to work for some of our frontline workers. But who can blame them, honestly? A $300 enhancement on top of the maximum unemployment insurance benefit could equate to $1,000 a week. And we get that. We never asked to remove that for those who truly need it. But when we raise the issue, so many have said to me, Michelle, isn't it the case that your businesses need to pay more? And my response has been consistently, those who can, do. And they always have, because they want to attract the best. They want to be the most competitive so that they can provide the best products and services. But the harsh reality is that the entry-level work is meant to be an entry point, and economics drive the fact that those positions can only equate to a certain amount of wage per hour because they're meant to be a launch point to building skills and increasing and advancing opportunity for our workers. That's why we advocate at BIA tirelessly for workforce development dollars to enhance the skills of the frontline worker so that they can organically increase their wages. Also affecting the crisis is the fact that workers are opting out of entry-level jobs that are more physically or mentally challenging, such as hospitality, childcare, and elder care. And particularly when the workforce is limited, the pressures on these workers are even more. And we hear examples of that every day, and you're going to hear some of those today. The competition for talent today is among all industries, not just within a vertical. And if you think about competition historically might have been a restaurant competing with a restaurant. Today, the restaurant and the childcare and the elder is competing with the Amazon, who's paying a certain amount of wages, and that's driving up the need to pay the other frontline jobs more money. But this is not a discussion about $15 minimum wage, because so many of our employers are already offering that and more right now with signing bonuses and enhanced wages that exceed that, and in some instances by far. But they're still not getting takers. Compound this by the fact that team workers will now be returning to college, school, sport camps, etc., leaving a further gap as we enter the peak tourism season of August. So today is about discussing solutions to this unprecedented hiring crisis. Everyone plays a role in solving the crisis. Our employers, our workforce, and our policymakers. We have to come together and figure this out, and we need to do it immediately. You'll hear some solutions embedded in today's comments in addition to the challenges our employers are facing. I'll sum up after the speakers with a few specific asks, if not addressed during the presenters' remarks. So first, I'd like to do a couple of thank yous and let you know who's here today. I want to thank our host, Marissa Tanner, who's the owner of Red's Lobster Pot. Thank you so much, Marissa. Appreciate it. I want to thank our Point Pleasant Beach Mayor, Paul Kinitra, who is joining us this morning. Thank you, and thank you for helping connect us with some local businesses. And I want to thank some of my association partners who are here today. Vicki Clark from the Cape May County Chamber of Commerce, Verlanda Nixon of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, Hillary Shebra of the Chamber of Commerce of Southern New Jersey, Danielle Norcross and Philip Brilliant of the Greater Toms River Chamber. And thank you again for helping to connect us with the workers who are here today, the employers who are here today. Lori Pepinella of the Southern Ocean County Chamber of Commerce, and Margot Walsh from the Jersey Shore Partnership. So with that, I'd like to begin our speakers, and I'm going to first introduce Vicki Clark, who's going to discuss the impacts on the tourism industry.
Thank you, Michelle. Up and down the Jersey Shore, tourism businesses are desperate for workers. seasonal, year-round, part-time, full-time, restaurants, amusements, hotels, fishing boats, campgrounds, municipal lifeguard stations, grocery stores, fish markets, retailers, linen service station, companies, museums, wholesale delivery companies, banks. Basically every single business that directly or indirectly is involved in your vacation is understaffed and overworked. And the problem is only getting worse every day, with students and teachers working summer jobs, preparing to return to sports teams and the classrooms beginning in August. My name is Vicki Clark. I'm the chairman of the board of the New Jersey Tourism Industry Association and president of the Cape May County Chamber of Commerce. The New Jersey tourism industry employs 300 people directly and over 500 indirectly, fueling New Jersey's $46.4 billion industry. And those are the 2019 numbers. I'm referring to that because, as we all know, 2020 was skewed by COVID. In 2020, that number dropped, and I want to talk specifically about the 4 coastal counties of Cape May, Atlantic, Ocean, and Monmouth, which employs 133,000 directly in the seasonal tourism industry. The number dropped to less than 100,000 last year, and of course we don't have the figures for this year, but we know that our employees did not return, although our customers have returned in record numbers. In 2021, our businesses have been forced to cut hours, close portions of their operations, and some just shut down unexpectedly, disappointing our loyal customers who save all year long for their one trip to the shore. Businesses predict losing yet another 20 to 30% of their staff by mid-August as those students and teachers leave to return to the classroom and the field, right in the middle of the busiest month of New Jersey's $22.3 billion shore tourism economy. One business owner I spoke with told me his staff is already down 129 employees, and this additional anticipated shortage will mean closing dining rooms and cutting hours of operation. A motel owner told me with tears in her eyes that she had lost her only maid, which meant cleaning the rooms and doing the laundry herself. Another business person who a few years ago stopped relying so much on the college students and put more emphasis on the J1 program, the summer work travel program, which never really materialized this summer. That led to a delay in opening a new operation, which then caused a lack of providing consistent table service, offering midweek lunch, and led to diminishing returns on what should have been a robust summer season to tide them over during the winter months. We must reward and encourage our workers to return. I focused my comments this morning on the power of New Jersey's shore tourism economy. New Jersey loves the Jersey Shore, but we have a wonderful, complete tourism economy throughout the entire state. As we look towards the fall months and our festivals, our beverage tourism economy, our museums, our cultural sites, we need our tourism workers back on the job. So let's encourage them to return and use New Jersey's tourism economy to fuel our total economy of the state. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Vicki. I'd now like to call Denise Bexon from Maurice Pierce.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank Michelle and the New Jersey Business Industry Association for the opportunity to share our story. Maurice Piers is located in Wildwood, New Jersey. We have 3 amusement piers and 2 water parks, along with 4 restaurants. Our sister company, Maury Resorts, has 4 hotels and 1 restaurant. All of our businesses are struggling this year. All of our businesses are understaffed this year. All of our businesses see our full-time employees not just doing their job, but working additional hours and doing frontline staff positions in order to try to service our guests as best as possible in 2021. Sure, businesses are used to the struggle of staffing. Our local population doesn't support the summer swell that we see. However, that said, 2021 is like no year we've ever experienced. We've existed more than 50 years, and we've never struggled to find staff like we have this year. We have rides closed, we have services reduced, we have reduced hours on our facilities, all so we can try to staff for a shorter period of day and provide the guest experience that our visitors have come to expect and demand. Our maximum employment this year is about 20% of our 2019 numbers. Right now we're hovering at about 70% of our 2019 numbers. So we're 30% down currently. And this is while we're trying to heal economically from the impacts of COVID last season. Each and every day, we are drinking from the fire hose, trying our best to provide the services our visitors expect, trying the best to provide the employment that our teammates and colleagues want, and to provide an experience that is a must repeat for both our guests and our employees. And the struggle is very, very real this year. Seasonal businesses have a very, very short window to make their revenues that they need to sustain them for the entire year. In my free time, I like to scuba dive. So, and several of us do around the office, and we've compared this sort of to filling your oxygen tank. We have 3 or 4 short months to fill our tank, and that air has to last us and continue to keep our full-time employees with a job for the 8 and 9 months of the off season. So we have 3 or 4 months in order to sustain a year-round employment opportunity for 150 of our colleagues. And August is our busiest month, and we are actually dreading it. We are losing staff daily due to college, returning to band camp, sports camp. We love to employ teens. We love to be a first job for many. In fact, I started there when I was 14. It was my first job ever. So I'm very much in tune with our teen workforce and what it can provide and offer. However, they have other commitments. They have other obligations, and they have school. We were not able to rely on the summer work travel international exchange students this year as we've done in the past, because that program was impacted by U.S. embassy operations overseas. So while we have some, it's not our traditional numbers. Those are the students who get us through the end of August into Labor Day, when we have our Americans going back to school. So we are dealing with probably another 25% reduction in our workforce before Labor Day, coupled with the 30% we currently have. And the results are going to be very real revenue impact. We are forecasting potentially 30% less revenue in August than a typical year. And for a seasonal business, when August is their busiest month, that is devastating. That is a very real impact. That will stunt our growth. That will stunt our ability to keep year-round people employed. That will stunt our ability to offer capital improvements and new offerings to our guests. My message today is we're hiring. We've been hiring since February. We haven't stopped hiring. If anyone is interested in part-time, seasonal, full-time, in everything from lifeguard to EMT to bartender, we have positions out there for everyone. So if you're out there and you can work, we implore you to work with us or with another business in need to keep New Jersey's economy strong, to keep our businesses strong, and to heal from the impacts of COVID-19. We want to work with our state officials to help send this message that if you're available, please go out and get a job, even part-time. It will help to keep our communities successful as we work through the end of this pandemic. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Denise. Just to manage you all, we have about 4 more speakers, so we won't have you here for an hour, okay? I see the warmth in the air. So next up, we have Verlanda Nixon from the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey.
Good morning, and thank you, Michelle, for the invitation to be here today. So I am Verlanda Fox Nixon, and I'm the Chief of Policy and Government Affairs of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. While we are all here today to sound the alarm of New Jersey's hiring crisis, I want to remind everyone that the unemployment rate for blacks still remains the highest in the state, notwithstanding the labor shortage. Since the African American Chamber is dedicated to economically empowering and sustaining the black community, By being a critical source of information and resources, we can help bridge the gap. We invite employers to avail themselves of our media platforms to reach the more than 10,000 contacts in our email address database, the more than 2,000 listeners of our radio show, The Empowerment Hour, and the more than 29 million viewers of our television show, Pathway to Success. Send us your job postings, and we will spread the word to our constituents. We all know that information shared by a trusted source yields plenty. So all job postings should be mailed to Nicole Baptiste. She's our Director of Membership Relations and Special Projects, and her email is nbaptiste@aaccnj.com. Again, that's Nicole Baptiste, and her email is nbaptiste@aaccnj.com. And then one other thing, we also offer training programs. So please contact us to explore the opportunity for us to design a curriculum for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rolanda. Next up, we have Joe Palmisano, who's the owner of Four Seasons Diner and Joe Bella Restaurant in Toms River.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. The restaurant industry has gotten hit. We were hit hard from COVID. Now we're in the stage of that hiring. People are leaving. We need help. The struggle is real, as everybody else has said. It's not just our industry, it's every industry. We should be supporting the people that can and will work than to supporting the people that don't work. I mean, I have people that come in, kids, grown-ups, mothers. They can't find childcare. They can't find the necessities to get back to work. We as an industry, like I said, have been hit hard. There's really nothing out there for us to support us to get that more people to work for us. There's a lot of aspects that go into the restaurant industry. We have our bussers, your servers, your back of the house, your front of the house. We're just not getting the people. I put an ad out the other day. I got 0 responses, and that's on 2 different platforms. So I'm just encouraging the governor and everybody else to help out. I mean, from our hotels, for our restaurants, for our every industry across the board. Just get us. We're struggling to get through the summer, and it's not fair. Our taxes aren't going down. Our payroll taxes aren't going down. Nothing, everything's monotone except the help that we can get to basically support the businesses which support the town. Our hours have been changed. We're opening later, closing earlier to lessen the staff because we just don't have it. So I'm just encouraging the people out there that if you can work, please work, part-time, full-time, anytime. That's a slogan I came up with. We'll take it, and let's get through this together. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I love your slogan: part-time, full-time, anytime. We'll take it. Absolutely. Next up is Allie O'Neill from Colonial Bakery in Lavalette.
Hi, and thank you, Michelle, for inviting me today to share my story. I'm one of the owners of Colonial Bakery in Lavalette, and I know that my business is not the only business that has been highly impacted on the Barrier Island due to staffing shortages. Many restaurants in the area have reduced their hours, they have reduced their days. We are struggling right now just to get through the next couple weeks, and after that, I would estimate about 40% of our front of house staff is going to leave to go back to college, to go back to sports camps. So the last 2 weeks of August that are usually a struggle for us is even more of a struggle this year due to already being short-staffed now. My family also owns Muller's Bakery in Bayhead. They recently made the decision to close Wednesdays. My family has owned this business for 18 years, and in those 18 years, they've never been closed a day in the summer. Summer is their busiest season. It's the most important season to get through the rest of the year. But they just don't have enough staff to be open 7 days a week. They have put out applications on their website, on many platforms. They're advertising really everywhere, and they're getting 0 applications. So they offer not only paid vacation, they have retirement benefits, they have 100% healthcare coverage, as well as competitive pay. So it's not that we're not paying enough, which a lot of business owners are being told that if you pay more, you'll get the workers. These are amazing benefits and literally not one application. So it's not that we're not paying enough. It's not that we don't have the benefits. It's that people aren't applying. They're not trying to get out to work. So really, I'm here to ask the governor to please have people get back to work. We need them. We need them to sustain the New Jersey economy, especially during the summertime. We need the unemployment laws to be enforced. And just anyone out there that is looking, apply anywhere. Like everyone else has said here today, every industry is hiring. We all need your help. Anything you can give us would be great. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Allie. We feel the pain from your family business. It's a story I hear 10 times a day. I'd now like to welcome Ralph Wolf of Jersey Coast Appliance in Toms River.
Thank you, Michelle. As Michelle said, my name is Ralph Wolf. I am the chair of the Greater Toms River Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy to have Danielle, our CEO, with us today, and our incoming chair, Mr. Phil Brilliant, coming in today. So thank you for coming out and listening to our stories as employers. I represent not only Jersey Coast Appliance, but our 350 members here in the Greater Toms River Chamber. I'll tell you a little bit about our story. This year we're celebrating our 40th year in business. I have never seen such great opportunity for us to expand and grow, along with so much lack of resources to respond. Our customers are waiting. If you have a dishwasher that's not working, you're probably going to wait about 2 weeks for one of our technicians to get out there because we don't have enough technicians. If you're looking to buy new appliances, they're far and few between. I've got people sitting here with orders from, well, let's call it last December, waiting for pieces to come in. And that's just representative of the supply chain and how it breaks down when we don't have our workers. Yesterday I was out cutting boxes instead of being the administrator to my company. We're all talking about not getting applicants and paying huge amounts of money to advertise for new employees. Well, not only do you not receive any resumes, if they do show up, after you make an appointment, and they fog a mirror, we all know that. We just want to see that mirror fog and we're going to hire you today. Then they don't show up for the job after they agree to come aboard. It's very expensive to vet an employee, as you all know. In our company, we run background checks and drug screens on everyone. That's quite expensive, and it takes a lot of time to run it through. So I would encourage the leadership, not only of our state, but of the nation, to look at perhaps something called a PIP. Instead of a paycheck protection program, perhaps it should be a paycheck incentive program and help out the businesses that are being required to pay more. You know, the $1,000 a week that Michelle talked about that equates out on a 40-hour week to a little bit about $22 an hour. And that's a lot to pay for an entry-level position, especially for a small business like mine. Well, I think that's about it. You all get it. And again, that's all put our heads together and try to find a way to help the businesses, not only in Ocean County, but across the state and the country. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ralph. And our final speaker to address the significant issue of childcare is Corinne Serrano-Jarzik with Kitty Academy.
Thank you, Michelle, for giving me the opportunity to speak about our hiring crisis. My name is Corinne Serrano-Jarzik, and in my almost 20 years of experience hiring childcare employees, I've never had such a difficult time. This crisis, pure and simple, is about getting anyone to apply for a job, period. For example, pre-COVID, a budget of about $500 on Indeed would yield about 20 applicants. This crisis, pure and simple, is about getting anyone to apply for a job, period. For example, pre-COVID, a budget of $500 on Indeed would yield about 20 applicants. Right now, with a budget of $1,500, I'm lucky to see one applicant. In childcare, our restrictions on grouping increase our staff by 20% in an economy where we're having such a difficult time finding staff. As a result, most childcare centers have limited slots available, which stops parents from returning to the workforce. We're on limited hours, which as well stops parents from returning to the workforce. We've had to close classrooms down last minute, calling parents and letting them know that they will not be able to drop their child off at work, at school that day, so that they can return to work, which also puts their job at jeopardy. And this is not just for my center, this is many centers across the board. People who apply for jobs do not show up for interviews. Even less time do they show up for their start date. And as other people have said today, we do invest time and money in orientating these staff. Those that do show up for work are expected to be paid to pretty much stand around and not perform to the high standards that we expect in childcare today. People with zero skills, zero experience, and without a degree are applying for entry-level positions and expecting much higher wages than our assistant staff who have been there with their experience. We are asking people to please return to work. We need you. Working in childcare is one of the most rewarding fields you can work in. At the end of each day, you will know that without a shadow of a doubt, you have made a difference to that child and that family. We are also a huge contributing factor in our state's economy. Without childcare, parents cannot return to the workforce. I spoke with a colleague this morning who has 60 families on her waiting list because she does not have enough staff to have those families. If those families cannot work, they cannot pay their taxes. We approximated that the New Jersey taxable income is losing $6 million just on the 60 slots that she has available in her center. We are asking Governor Murphy to please support New Jersey businesses in encouraging workers that are able to work to return to the workforce and remind people that UI benefit rules will be enforced if you are available for work and refuse to work without a legitimate reason to do so. We are asking our legislators to support New Jersey businesses by getting behind employer tax credits for those who are offering cash incentives. If the government wants to support workers, it should be done in a results-based manner. I believe hired workers should receive a federal subsidy when they receive gainful employment, as well as bonuses as they continue along the way. The government would be spending the same amount of money as it is now in aid, but rewarding individuals who are working as opposed to those who choose not to, based, of course, on individual circumstances. I am also begging our legislature not to allow this to happen again. The damage has been done, and we need to move forward in a positive manner. And as was also said, we are here and we are looking. If you can work full-time, part-time, anytime, please. We need people to return to the workforce. Thank you.
I just want to take a few minutes to sum up and have some call to action. I think you could hear the passion and the pleas. And we're not just here to complain. We're here to try to offer solution. And so I think and I know that we all play an important role, and if we come together, we can solve this problem. But we need to do it, as we said, right now. Our employers, our workforce, and our policymakers. So here's the message. To our workforce, we need you. A job is sustainable and unemployment is not. We want to remind traditional seasonal workers that they must clock 12 consecutive weeks in one season in order to be eligible for off-season unemployment insurance benefits. You still have time to do that. The federal unemployment enhancement program ends September 4. If you come back to now, you have the opportunity potentially to get those 12 weeks and receive then your unemployment in the off-season like you did in years past. Also, those receiving unemployment now can return to work for limited hours and not jeopardize your ability to continue to receive your UI benefits. There's still time. Even one more employee can greatly help a business, as you have heard. To the workforce, visit the job posting boards that were discussed today. Go online to your local one-stop career center who is working virtually to match employees with jobs. There are tens of thousands of open positions available today. We are partnering with 101.5. I see you here today. Thank you very much. We're partnering with 101.5 on the 101.5 Job Fair. Go check out that virtual job fair. Tens of thousands of jobs are waiting for you. Take advantage of workforce development opportunities to build your skills. The jobs that are returning today in many cases are very different than the jobs that were left before and require a high degree of skills, which means you can achieve a higher pay scale. Higher skills means more money. The resources for workforce development are abundant and available through the one-stop career centers, your county community colleges, county vocational technical schools, and many trade schools across the state of New Jersey. Take advantage of these resources, and we believe there'll be Federal Rescue Act money to help to enhance this as well. A message to our employers. We hear you. We're here standing beside you. We want to work with you. Post your open jobs on those reference job boards. Get on that 101.5 job fair and post your job there as well. Apply for an EDA grant loan, many of which can be used for payroll purposes, such as sign-on bonuses to incentivize a return to work. Let us know how you're tweaking your business model for sustainability in the future. We are gravely concerned that these jobs are not going to exist in the future. And who wants to lose our hospitality or our tourism? We don't. It's sacred to New Jersey. We need to do what we can in order to ensure sustainability of these jobs for the future. It's going to require all of us to put our heads together on what the business model of the future looks like. Finally, to our policymakers. We're thankful for the money that the governor and the legislature have made available to New Jersey business community over the past year, as well as some of the policies that we have advocated for, such as the increase in teen worker hours that did in fact help to subsidize some of those missing hours from the missing workers. But we need more direct engagement and some particular actions that we ask. First, affirmatively communicate that available for work requirements will be enforced. An affirmative statement must be made on this point now. Just like President Biden did almost 2 months ago when he stood up and said to the American worker, if you are available for work, you must return to work. If you're available for work, you must return to work, or UI benefits will be enforced. That message needs to be stated here in the state of New Jersey. Establish a more responsive process for employers to report violations. We know that some violations are being accounted for. However, we know many are not. We understand how overwhelmed the Department of Labor system is, but we absolutely need relief in this space. We have advocated for some Rescue Act money to take care of those antiquated systems so that this will never, ever happen again. It's critical to hold people accountable. And we need to avoid unemployment insurance fraud because that dries up the cost at the end. We've seen that happen in the past, and that is unsustainable. So not only do we have a very significant gap there now, if we continue to have these levels of unemployment in the future, the costs are just unsustainable. We need to fully open our one-stop career centers in person. Job seekers and employers need better access to reemployment and training support, not just online oversubscribed programs. They make the connections for reemployment, and they're a critical tool for employers and employees in that workforce development that I talked about before. Remove remaining childcare license restrictions, as was explained by Corinne, relative to groupings that limit the amount of students that can be enrolled. This can and must be done. The childcare centers practice all safety protocols, and we need our children back in the centers so our workers can get back to work. Consider a lump sum payment upfront for individuals returning to work now, as well as a retention payment for those currently working to remain through summer's end. And finally, provide tax credits to those businesses struggling to raise taxes in order raise wages in order to be competitive. We've heard of businesses raising their hourly pay. Good for them if they can manage it. But many of our small businesses can't, especially after a year of shutdowns and restrictions which have left them hanging on by a thread. Paying more for many of these businesses could mean dipping into their own personal savings, as we have seen time and time again, as well as we've seen the overstress on the owners who are the ones now going out and cutting the boxes, as a perfect example, or the owners who are now making the beds because they don't have their maid. This crisis is real. I know if we put our heads together, we can come up with some solutions. So thanks for being here today, and now we'll take any questions that you may have. Daniel?
I guess somewhat off topic, but the Delta variant to talk about mask mandates and resurgence, has there been any consumer shock from any that you see in the business community, any employers and any customers or the supply chain who reacted out of the expectation that the Delta variant will worsen or that there could be mask mandates and resurgence?
So I'm just going to offer a comment, but then I want to ask my businesses because consumers are out there. The issue is that we have a lot of demand, but we don't have the ability to deliver on the other side. And I don't think that the Delta variant is affecting people coming down to the shore and wanting the services. The issue is we can't service the people to the extent we want to, and that's where the gap is. Therefore, we can't generate the revenue needed to send the tax dollars back to Trenton. Anybody want to add to that, or am I kind of spot on that? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Just a few questions on the policy side. So, first, can you explain the guidance of the child care restrictions and might follow that? Also, you mentioned like the public subsidy. I know there are some states where there is no job, Rhode Island, have done like bonuses.
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to? And like what amount would you be for a long time period? And then finally, kind of the same on the tax credit. Should that be reimbursed employers who show that they've raised wages in order to
Yes.
receive?
Yes, I'll take them in reverse order, and then I'll turn to Corinne, who may want to talk about the grouping. The tax credit, there's actually there's a bill in the legislature that did not get through. We can send you the details with the bill number. I'm looking for Bob in the audience. Yeah, we have that, and it expressly has the amounts in there. So that's what we have been advocating for. Also at the federal level, Mikey Sherrill has a policy that she's advancing as well, and so we are supporting both of those. So we can send you the details on that, so you can supplement the story with the actual numbers. Okay. On the one-time payment, you know, what we'd like to do is at least at a minimum try to retain the workforce and attract the workforce to get us through Labor Day, so we don't lose the benefit of August and the importance of that season in order to enable tourism industry to hang on to come back next year. That money is very, very important, not just generate revenue to the state, but to help them to survive to come back next year. And so when we talk about a one-time payment, incentive, or retention, that's exactly what we're talking about. Other states have done that. We realize there are still workers out there that need that $300. New Jersey is not going to take that program away. But what we said is let's be creative in balancing the scales for the employers who are suffering the other side of that and give them the ability directly to the employer to be able to turn that over onto the employee when they come back to work if the employee commits to staying for a certain period of time. So we're certainly flexible and open to what the amount would be and what the term would be, but we've tinkered around with 1,000 to 1,500, get them through Labor Day, and then perhaps another enhancement if they stayed through October so that we can ensure a longer season, which the shore has strived for many, many, many years. On the child care limitation, Karen, you want to address that? Yeah. Corinne?
Regarding child care grouping, right now as the restrictions stand, when children come in, they have to stay in the same classroom with the same children and the same staff for the duration of the day. Most child care centers are open from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. We cannot have our staff working more than 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So if you do the math, if the children have to stay in the same classroom all day long, we need that number of staff. So if I have 20 staff, I need those 20 staff to open my building and to close my building, which is why we're on restricted hours, to allow the staff to be able to be there for their 8 to 9 hours without paying a tremendous amount of overtime. And we do not want to push and have not pushed those costs back on parents. So if we are allowed to move the staff around the building or put the children in different groups, then we can group them together. So instead of having one classroom open with one child in it, or 10 classrooms open, each with one child in it, I could have 3 classrooms open and put those 10 children spread across 3 classrooms. Does that make sense?
Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, can you talk about maybe reaching out to the less usual workers? Have you tried reaching out to retirees? Have you tried reaching out to folks who maybe are newly out of like substance abuse or incarceration? Have you tried anything really unusual and any successful issues there or
Oh, thank you for that question. I know a little bit about that, and we've read where former felons are being addressed, tried to bring on to the workforce. Unfortunately, in my business, we are required to do background checks. We are not allowed, industry-wide, I'm talking about the entire United States, to hire folks with a felony record that's less than 7 years old. And that's from the time that they do get out of incarceration. So, our industry, and I can only speak to my industry is very restrictive that way because we don't want to send somebody to your home who might be doing you harm. So we have to be vigilant with that. And I believe in a lot of other industries that that same policy holds true. Does that help?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Denise, do you want to? Yeah. Because I know you've been doing a lot of unique outreach. Yeah.
We've done more outreach in more areas than I ever thought possible. We do reach out to seniors, and we do have a senior workforce group. I will say it was not as successful as one would hope, primarily because of their concerns about COVID. Since they're a more risk population, they are hesitant to come back into an environment that will see the numbers of people that we have. A couple unique things that we've done. We're working with a talent agency in New York that recruited performers who were not able to perform in their summer stock theater and places like that. And so they have hired about 50 folks or so that have come to our facility for the summer and are working frontline positions as well as performing while they work those positions. So you might get your lemonade and hear a shake-up song while you get it. They're also doing some open mic performing and things like that. And these folks came from all over the country. We have people from Idaho, Alabama, Mississippi. Unfortunately, some of them are college students as well. So after this weekend, we'll go down to about 30 or so of them remaining till Labor Day. We're in Cape May County. We've worked with Cumberland County. They don't have quite the number of seasonal jobs there. We've worked with the Technical Education Center, and we're busing over about 40 children, teens, throughout the week, and they are working frontline positions for us as well. We worked with the school and administrator there to get that program started. So we have put on our thinking caps and continue to try to turn over every rock and look everywhere to get staff. Unfortunately, our rosters are not close to full. And when you're talking about some of these positions and the part-time, full-time, anytime, and the flexibility, when you look at our 2019 numbers compared to our 2021, it's really not apples to apples, because in 2019, I might not have hired someone that can work 1 day a week. This year, I'm hiring someone who can work 1 day a week. We've increased the number of minors that we hire, which is wonderful. They do have restrictions on hours and duties, so it was very helpful that the governor expanded that and signed that bill. But they cannot work the same number of hours as an international exchange student. So when we compare numbers, it's even a starker difference when you consider the number of hours that people are working. But we continue to try to think through new ways to attract and recruit people.
So, one of the issues, and as I was speaking, I did focus a lot of my comments on the demands of the shore tourism economy, because that is so much where we find the huge increase in the demand on seasonal workers. And those communities have lower population numbers, and that's what we see anywhere across the country. When you have this big burgeoning seasonal economy, you have lower population numbers, which means that you have to bring in a workforce. And the loss of the summer work travel program in any meaningful way across the country, but in New Jersey, that typically means about 5,500 international students who come into New Jersey to work. And we were so late in those students being approved to come in, and although they came in fewer numbers, that they have to have housing. And in our barrier island communities, the housing is a real problem, and so by the time they were coming, a lot of that housing was not available. And so, and it doesn't really matter if they're international students or we're able to recruit people from Puerto Rico or from colleges or anyone who wants to come from Western Pennsylvania or upstate New York or from southern states who want to just come and experience working along the Jersey Shore. They have to have a place to live, and that's a real challenge because a lot of that housing that would have been available was released by the homeowners and put out and was taken. We're having a phenomenal season in many regards by people who want to come and visit along the shore. So a lot of that housing was taken and rented and was not available. So that just exacerbates the problem of having space for seasonal workers. So, one problem just causes another problem, which causes another problem, and is a domino effect. So, many employers really have tried to think through this and where can we find people who want to come and work here. But the problem is that, we have low population numbers in the area where the seasonal employment is the highest. So a lot of creative thinking really has gone into, where can we find people who want to come and work. But, the reality is that You know, whether, as Denise said, a lot of our older population had more concerns about, you know, going back to work. And we think that, you know, next year, a lot of those people are going to want to return to their jobs because they may not have as many concerns from the health perspective. But right now, we are just really desperate, you know, for anyone who wants to come back to work.
Michelle, along those same lines, because it seems like demographically the numbers aren't in favor of employers with just millennials getting older. But you talked a little bit about the workplace of the future. Like, what sorts of things are you thinking about?
Yeah, so if Dr. Joel Bloom from NJIT were here, he's on my board, so we have these discussions all the time. He said, we're actually experiencing the need to fill jobs for skills that we didn't think we'd be filling until 2024 at best. And so the answer to that is standing up very, very quickly credential and certification programs, mainly around the technology. And if you just think about the fact we have to enable an entire workforce for remote work, just start from there, right? How many of us had to increase our own skills to work remotely and learn how to use technology in different ways? Well, you see that across everything. Go into your supermarkets today and you see technology taking the place of you know, cashiers. And now workforce will say, oh, they're taking my jobs away. The reality is the employer has no choice but to move more quickly to automation to deliver certain services because the workforce isn't answering the call. So it's not that they want to displace the workforce is shriveling, and therefore they need an answer to keep that industry going. So this is really about workforce development, credentials, you know, quick types of certificates that you could take a 6-week, a 10-week, a 6-month program, and you could say with this piece of paper, I can do this. And now what we'll have is employers being able to onboard people quicker and not have to necessarily train them for a month, and they'll be more efficient, more effective, and the turnover will probably be less as well, and all the wages increase as well. Okay. Yes.
Last week, the governor just announced that extra $135 million on top of the other $600 million to help businesses get back on their feet. Has that helped at all with these businesses? Have they applied for those grants, and do you feel like it's just like a short-term solution, something that's going to continue beyond the dollars that are available?
Yeah. So thank you, and we say thank you for every dollar that goes to business. Some of that money has been taking a little longer to come out than we would have liked from a year ago, right? But we are thrilled for every dollar that is flowing to the New Jersey business community, and we are advocating for a lot more of that money out of the Rescue Act, okay? So we have asks in for that. But you are absolutely right. What that is doing is it's putting Band-Aids on. It was meant to just get people through the crisis. It is not in any way helping companies to grow, expand, and get that next dollar that they need. Remember, all these folks are coming back behind the 8 ball because they were closed for so long, right? So they're playing catch up. They have gaps. They're not making enough revenue to cover expense. They're being demanded to increase expense at the same time. This money is only filling gap. It's not affording them the opportunity to get that leg ahead. That's that sustainable thing we need to get together on, right? What's the long-term plan to ensure that these businesses don't die in the next year? And I'll give you a sad statistic. I mean, we know as we stand here today across the state of New Jersey, we are 40% less small businesses than we were in January of 2020. That does not take into consideration new startup companies, so we're prayerful for anyone that does. But think about companies that existed that are no longer here. Okay, so we appreciate every dollar. Yes, it fills gaps right now. There are other dollars. We advocate for dollars toward innovation, which we think is that more sustainable. Again, how do we get money for automation to businesses that need it and can benefit from it, as well as those training dollars that are more sustainable investment of dollars than just short-term fix. Okay.
I have a quick question. Has anybody reached out to any folks who are unemployed to find out if there are any barriers preventing them from coming back to the workforce? As I know she mentioned, maybe trying to get your kid into daycare. Maybe some of the older population has a little hesitancy about coming back with so many people on COVID. But has there been any kind of bridge the gap conversation to find out what can be, like where people can meet in the middle if there is a barrier in between them coming back?
So you heard some before, but I'm gonna look down the line and say, what have you heard? Because I mean, the sad part is people come in and they say, and this is not everybody, right? I don't want to, I mean, you know, just like when employers are bad actors, we call them out, okay? When an employee is a bad actor, we got to call them out. When someone shows up and says, pay me off the books and I'll come back, that's not fair, okay? Because the employer's not going to take that risk, okay? When people say, I have childcare issues, anytime, part-time, sometime, can you give us something, right? But please, does anybody have a story of what you've heard specifically from someone who's being hired?
That's a great question because yesterday I reached out to my niece who's she's a bartender. She took off this summer because she was worn out. She was working 12, 16-hour shifts, not making the money that she should be making. And she just said to me, Uncle Ralph, she said, I needed the break. And I think as employers, we all have to be cognizant of the fact that while it's not only burdensome on us, but to our staff, and we're overworking them. I've heard stories where businesses are closing down for one day during the week just to give their employees a break. Sometimes we lose sight of that because of the demand that our customers are putting on us. But I think that's really, really important. That was one of the barriers for her coming back to work. She just needed more time.
Anyone else want to add anything? Yeah.
I have to say that sadly, in my experience, I've heard people, and they just give me the honest truth. Corinne, why would I return to work when I'm receiving more money to stay home? And that's the sad truth. And I can't fault them or blame them for that. I do try to explain to them that work is sustainable, where UI benefits are not. And they're banking on the fact that there will be jobs there for them when they do choose to return to the workforce. So that's very difficult for us to compete with.
And I just think one piece of reality also is some of those jobs will be available because they're all-time, right? However, the tourism jobs who ordinarily might have been around till October, November, they're going to be gone Labor Day. And I think the workforce is going to think, I'll be able to clock those 12 hours after Labor Day. The jobs aren't going to be there. So that's just another message to the workforce to think about that.
I think what you just said and what Chris just said is what I was going to ask about.
Okay.
Like there's sort of that ticking clock that maybe people think once Labor Day comes, kids go back to school, the supplemental stuff runs out, I'll be able to go grab a job, but it may go the other way. The whole world thinking they can get one if there's not enough out there.
Yeah, and in the meantime, New Jersey's employers are pivoting their business models, and those jobs are going to change. And that's why I say the job that was there before might not be the same when you're ready to come back to it. The time to come back is now.
How quickly can you make something happen for August? We're almost to August. Like, could the governor just by executive order create those bonuses for people going back to work quickly?
Yeah. So we know it's very difficult to stand up a program that has to do with state money because, you know, there are rules, et cetera. What we've even said is make it a reimbursement at this point. All right, so that there's some trust between government and New Jersey's workers, New Jersey's employers, to say if you do the following criteria while we build the program, you can come to us. You know, in October we'll have the program stood up, and you can come in for a reimbursement. And then it'll be on those companies to say, I'm willing to take that risk. You know, if you know that there's some money coming to you, you may dip into your pocket and say, I'm willing to fork out that $4,000 for the 4 employees because I'm going to get it back in October.
Have you had any input from the governor's office about whether or not
So we have ongoing discussions with the governor's office on the things that I discussed.
Just real quick, with the legislature is planning to come back with the Democratic budget. Is there anything you're asking here that would be done through legislation and the lawmakers be active during this time period?
Yes, we do believe that, you know, there are some items that we would like to see them take up. There were things that were on the docket, like that tax credit bill. We were hoping to see that go through, and it didn't. And with the appropriation of certain money, we might need the legislature to weigh in on that. But again, you know, our governor's the strongest governor in the country. I'm not just making that up. That's for real. And so, you know, his ability to do things by executive order, you know, is strong. But of course, we have to do things prescriptively and make sure that we're following the rules. So we don't ask for anything that wouldn't be appropriate. But we think if we problem solve the right way, we can, you know, fill some of these gaps in. Anyone else? Good. I just want to say just 2 things in closing, because I want to go back to the workforce reentry, because NJBIA partners very closely with the New Jersey Reentry Corp, which is, everyone recall, Governor McGreevey, you know, started that years ago, and we are doing significant work. He is doing significant work in reentry in many, many industries. So there is that opportunity, but for some industries, it's just a long way off. So please know, in New Jersey, there's a tremendous effort underway on that. And the last thing I want to say to any New Jersey resident, anyone who's enjoying their time at the shore or vacationing anywhere or frequenting one of our New Jersey businesses, please be patient and be kind. You heard about the overstressed and overworked workers who are here. All right? It's going to take longer to get your table. It's going to take longer to get your meal. You may have paper cups. You may have paper plates because there isn't a dishwasher. Okay? And that's just an example in restaurant. It carries through any type of industry, right? Be patient, be kind. Realize that the folks that are standing on the other side of you are there trying to service you the best they can. They're probably overworked and overtired right now because their partner did not show up for work today. And that's the reality these workers are working with. So we thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I want to thank all the speakers, our host, our mayor, everyone who helped put this together. Our host, thank you, Marissa, very much. And please, enjoy Red's Lobster Pot for lunch or dinner.